Today's episode of The Real Deal with Damian Adams is brought to you by 3pointconversion.com. Now, 3-point conversion is where you should follow all your sports needs. If you like football, basketball, boxing, hockey, anything and everything in sports, follow 3-point conversion for all your sports needs on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Go to 3pointconversion.com to get all your articles. They're from very talented writers from all over the United States. The 3pointconversion.com is where fans' opinions matter. Make sure you go and check it out. Thank you for listening to The Real Deal with Damian Adams. This is Real Sports Talk for the Real Sports Fan. And I definitely appreciate all you Real Sports fans who are listening today. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, thank you. Please don't forget to tell your friends. Share us. Don't be selfish. Share us with your friends. Don't just hold all this good content to yourself, all right? And make sure you give us that 5-star rating, that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th. That 5-star rating and review will definitely be appreciated. If you're listening on Spreaker Radio on the 3-Point Conversion Station, of course, we appreciate you as well, because the 3-Point Conversion Station is where fans' opinions matter. So please let us know what you think of the show. If you think the show can improve, please be constructive, because I am a gentle soul. But let me know how I can improve. I want to be great at this, and I can't be great without your opinions. If you think the show is already awesome, don't hold back. Don't be constructive. Just let us know how you think the show is. Tell everybody in the world how great you think The Real Deal with Damian Adams is. I really appreciate that. And I'm really excited about today's show because I have somebody on the phone line who knows his sports. This guy right here definitely is someone who's funny. You know, I caught my attention on Twitter with his bio. He's a 5'10", backup power forward. He damn near dunked in middle school. This man right here has talent. Somebody who is a LeBron supporter, but we'll keep it real. I really appreciate that. I'm talking about the host of the Call It Whatcha Want podcast, J.Oden. How's it going today, man?
Oh, everything is great, man. Appreciate you having me.
Definitely. Got to have people like you on the show. And can you please tell people a little bit about yourself?
Oh, well, I'm J.Oden, 5'10", backup power forward, residing out in Crown Point, Indiana. Not too much going on in Indiana, but I love sports. I've been a huge sports fan my entire life. One day, I was at the barbershop talking basketball with the guys, and they was like, man, you need a podcast. So I just couldn't sleep one night, and I just started putting everything together. Started talking this basketball, started talking football, jumped on Twitter, started talking sports. Followers jumped from like 200 to about 700 within like 3 weeks. So now, here I am.
Wow, that's a crazy jump right there. But people attract themselves, or they are attracted to just real sports talk. So you have somebody out here like you who's dropping that real knowledge, they're going to be attracted to it. So you said that you were just at the barbershop one day and people said that you needed a podcast, and one day you just couldn't sleep. Have you always had this passion to talk sports? Is it something that you say you're a 5'10" backup power forward? Did you play basketball growing up? What was it that got you loving sports in the first place?
I always been a sports guy. Always been a sports fan. Playing sports, as a kid growing up, summer vacation, you wake up at 9 o'clock in the morning, you get dressed, go out with your friends, play some basketball, you play some football, you go swimming, you play some baseball. You do all that in one day. So I just fell in love with it at a real young age. And as far as like getting into this podcast game, and it was just like I'll talk and text with people and text with friends. They'll ask me my opinion on certain sports topics, and it just translated into, man, you really good at this. You really need to do your thing. I was a little hesitant because, there's certain things you can't talk to people about, like religion, sexuality, politics, and sometimes sports. Sometimes some people do get really with sports, especially if you don't like who they like, and if you have an opinion on who they like. But I'd rather be hated for being real than being fake and being loved. So I just went ahead and did it, and been going strong. About to put up another episode any day now.
So When people tune in to the Call It What You Want podcast, what can they expect to hear?
You're going to expect to hear almost everything. We always going to have some humor. We always going to have some facts and some opinions. And it's our own opinions. You will hear me say a lot of times, in my opinion. And that's what it is. It's my opinion. You don't have to listen to it. You don't have to take it. You don't have to like it, but you have to respect it because it is my opinion. Just like I would respect anybody else's opinion, respect the same.
Definitely.
But we have, like I said, we have special guests all the time. We just did an episode with one of my good buddies. His name's Grant Lyons. He does the podcast. It's me and my co-host Jeff. Y'all may know him as JC. I crack on him, let him know how ugly he is all the time. And we just have a good time. We have a real good time.
Yeah, so when listening to your podcast, you can tell you guys have a good time. And when the host is having a good time, the listener's going to have a good time. So I always definitely would recommend to go to callitwhatyouvant.com or subscribe on iTunes to Call It What You Want. And why did that become the name, Call It What You Want?
All right, so it's a funny story. So we had about 12 different names that we wanted to call it. And me and my co-host was going back and forth. We scratched that off the list, scratched this off the list. I was like, listen, as long as people listen, they can call it what they want. And that's how it came up. It was like, call it what you want. You make up the name. As long as you listen, you can call it whatever you want to call it.
I like that.
That's how we stuck with it.
Okay, I like that a lot. That's dope. I was thinking it was like the drunk uncle at the barbecue, just telling it like it is. Like, you can call it what you want. This is how it is right here. You can call it what you want.
That's true. I mean, I got a couple of uncles like that. but yeah, that's just what it was. It was like, we were spending too much time trying to pick up a name because, everybody was like, man, the name got to be spot on. And what's more appealing than people like, call it what you want? I wonder what this is about. So it just hit. Yeah,
no, I like that. That's definitely a good story and a good name right there. So now let's move on to some of your favorite teams and talk about them for a little bit. So Raiders Nation's in the building, correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So we're gonna definitely start with your Raiders right now, coming off the NFL draft. But the first thing I want to talk about is Jon Gruden. Jon Gruden got $100 million. $100 million from the Raiders. How did you feel about that decision and the amount of money it took for you guys to get Jon Gruden?
At first, I wasn't on board with it. I like Jack Del Rio. I think Jack Del Rio was a really good coach, a player's coach, and got a raw deal. But at the same time, you got to understand the business side of it. With potentially moving to Vegas in a couple years, number one, you want a good team, and number two, you want a face to the franchise. So right now, Derek Carr is, in my opinion, a really good quarterback, but he's not the face of a franchise. And so that's why you have to pay that money to get Gruden. Now, Gruden hasn't coached in a long time, but I didn't like him as the coach of the Raiders, but I disliked him more doing Monday Night Football. So I was like, do I want to continue watching my Raiders, or do I want to continue watching Monday Night Football? Like, as a football fan, I want to watch football all the time. So getting Gruden out of that booth is great.
I'm with you on that one because Jon Gruden, he knows football, but he didn't articulate that to the audience. And it's frustrating when you have somebody who has such a great football mind. You're like, I want as a football fan, I want to know what you're thinking right now. When you see this play, explain what happened. Like Tony Romo right now. Tony Romo's doing a great job in the booth. Everybody's giving him praises because he puts us there. He explains it to the normal fan, even though we're more than normal fan, you still might not know how to break down the cover three or whatever that is that Tony Romo will know. Jon Gruden should do that same thing. But besides, doing that, he would get so excited about simple things that we already knew. Like if he said what was the name of the play?
Spider D, Y banana?
Yes. Why banana? So he would get so excited about Spider 2 Why Banana. And I would be like, bro, we already know Spider 2 Why Banana. Throw it to the fullback, he's going to be opening the flat. We know the play.
Always.
And he would get so excited when that play happened. It's like, okay, bro, you've been breaking down the same play for us for about 7 years now. Like, let's move on. Teach us some more stuff. You know, we get Spider 2 Why Banana now. And he would get so excited. I remember the first time he did it with Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck was coming out of the draft, and he broke it down with Andrew Luck. And when Andrew Luck missed the fullback in the flat because he was trying to do more than he needed to do. We got the point, Gruden. We got the point. We know you go to the fullback in the flat. And he just would make sounds. Like, he wasn't mad. You can't just make sounds unless you John Madden. You can't just do the boom and bow and just grit your teeth unless you're John Madden. So I agree with you on that. Now, for the $100 million, I do think that is a very steep price for John Gruden. Because you think about John Gruden's career, he had some great years with the Raiders. I still believe you guys got robbed in the snow game against the Patriots with the tuck rule. Maybe he should have another Super Bowl under his belt. So you think about that year, of course, and the year where he went to the Buccaneers and won a Super Bowl. That Buccaneers team was already set and ready to go. Tony Dungy had them guys right at the edge of greatness, and he just pushed them over. Didn't have to do much there. And then he plays against the Raiders. You know, sorry to bring up bad memories. Plays against the Raiders, and he's going against Callahan, who didn't change anything that Gruden was doing. So he literally knew all he was going to do in that game, and that's why the Buccaneers smashed on him like that. And after that, after that, John Gruden had a bunch of mediocre years. You look at all the years after the Super Bowl, they were 8-8, 7-9, 9-7. They didn't do anything after that. So does he really live up to the expectations of a $100 million contract? Yeah, that's rough.
But you know, with the NFL, not for long. Not only does that apply for players, that also applies for coaches. I honestly, I don't see him being there throughout the whole time of that contract. 10 years is a very, very long time. So realistically, and I give him 3, maybe 4 years, and he's out of there. Whether he resigns or, you know, the team just doesn't have success the way they envisioned, and he's out of there.
But that's the crazy thing about coaching contracts. Those coaching contracts are fully guaranteed. You know, unlike you know the player contracts, they've written on toilet paper, but those coaching contracts are fully guaranteed. That $100 million is coming, unless he does something crazy. You know, does something out of the ordinary to get himself fired, and you know that's when lawyers come in and they can get the money back. But outside of that,
he wouldn't be the first coach.
That's true. He wouldn't be the first one, but I don't see Gruden out here sniffing white lines off a table, sending videos to women and whatnot. I don't see him doing nothing crazy like that. So with him, he's much smarter than that. So with him, you got to think he's going to get the $100 million. Now, if he lives through that contract, the only way he can live up to the expectations of a $100 million contract is if he wins more than one, not just one. Like, he can't just win. Say y'all win one year 3, and then the rest of the years are just contend. That still wouldn't be enough for $100 million. Like, he got to get like three chips.
Well, I think one is fine. I mean, it's not like the Raiders have been great. Just like last year, we had that winning record, made the playoffs. Everybody was like, yes, the Raiders are back. And I'm like, yeah, this is the first time we made the playoffs since like 2002, 2003. Like, that's like 15 years. You got to tamper them expectations. So for the Raiders, I feel like one championship for a team who hasn't had a lot of success over the last almost 20 years, one Super Bowl is worth $100 million.
Yeah.
Opposed to like a Green Bay or the Pittsburgh Steelers, or even, and I hate to bring this up because I hate the New England Patriots. Like, you know, that's supposed to be, championships are expected.
That's a very good point. That is a good point. The expectations are lower when you talk about the Raiders, but I do think a $100 million contract brings the expectations up to the level of those franchises that you talked about. But this is an interesting situation. So speaking of John Gruden,
complaining about it.
Oh, go ahead.
I said, you know who's not mad about Gruden get a $100 million contract? Not just besides John Gruden.
Who?
All the other coaches.
Yeah, facts.
Like, okay, he's getting $100 million. It's time for me to read up. Like Sean McVay, I think if he keeps doing what he's doing, he's going to be the next one to get it.
No, that's very true. Like when somebody sets the market that high, it definitely helps everybody else. Like Kirk Cousins, like Aaron Rodgers looking at that Kirk Cousins contract, like y'all gonna have to give me a personal spaceship. Like y'all have to give
absolutely.
Y'all got to give me something crazy.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, he got $84 million guarantee. Like all the quarterbacks are like, yeah, thank you.
Exactly. So yeah, that's a very good point as well. Now speaking of John Gruden, what have you thought about what John Gruden and that front office has done this offseason? You guys have been very busy.
I think they are ass. And I'm sorry if I'm cursing. I don't know if you like that. But getting rid of Mark King because of personality issues, that's nuts. That is insane. Like, I know it's the punter, but he's the best punter in the league. And you just let him go. You cut him because of his personality. And then not only that, he signs with the Broncos. Like, come on. And then, like free agency, like, all right, getting rid of Crabtree, smart move. I'm not a Crabtree guy. I've never been a Crabtree guy. But to get rid of Crabtree to overpay 34-year-old Jordy Nelson, what are you doing? Like, I'm just not a fan of what they've done. But it's still early. We have to just sit back and hope that everything's going to be all right.
Yeah, I do agree that Jordy Nelson is getting paid a lot at his age. We'll see. I think he's still got a couple of years left to be good. I do like the move of picking up Martavius Bryant that you guys did in the draft. I think that was a good move because he has a chip on his shoulder, something to prove.
Oh, yeah, not only him, but also getting Ryan Switzer, getting a return man. Like, that's a major pickup. Even though I like Cordell Patterson, but he just wasn't, he didn't have that flash that he had coming up to his contract year. So getting Ryan Switzer, young player, exciting player, I like it. I like that.
Yeah, I like those moves. I like those moves. So now let's move on to your favorite basketball team. You're a New York Knicks fan. And
yes.
Like, I was in the military and I met a lot of Knicks fans, and the Knicks fans that I met were usually delusional. Like, usually every time I met a Knicks fan, they was getting LeBron, they was getting LaMarcus Aldridge, they was getting whoever the next big guy was in free agency, they was getting, right? And the only big free agent in recent years was Amari. You got Carmelo in a trade. Amari was the one big free agent. Why do New York Knicks fans always believe they're getting the next guy?
Because of Madison Square Garden. They just think that the allure of being in New York is just great. But it's not what it used to be. It's not that anymore. Playing in the Garden, in the most famous arena, is great. But now you got places where you can go get $115 million and not have to pay any state income tax, like Miami, Texas. It's tough. And then if you're not putting a winning team out, nobody want to go there. Like, Amari Stoudemire was huge, like, when he came, like, but that was all about the money. That was like the only place that was going to really give Amari Stoudemire $100 million and let him be that big name and that big face that he wanted to be. But overall, as a Knicks fan, I am realistic. Like, I honestly believe that Phil Jackson kind of messed it up with getting free agents. Because, you cross LeBron, you can't talk about his team, his people. You're not going to get a free agent at all. But I think that the Knicks are going to have to build that team up the old-fashioned way, and that's through the draft.
Yeah, definitely. You have a star in Porzingis to build around. Hopefully he comes back strong off that knee injury. But you definitely don't have anybody else right now on that roster. But who do you think is the right guy to be the next New York Knicks coach?
A lot of people think Mark Jackson should be the coach, but me personally, I am not a fan of former greats coaching or being executives of where they used to play and where they were great at. Because when things turn south, it's not a good look for anybody. So for me personally, I like David Fizdale a lot, a defensive-minded guy who's still young. A lot of players around the league, especially, the former Miami guys, they all vouch for him. But I would like to see David Fizdale be the coach of the Knicks.
That's a very good pick. I think Fizdale got a raw deal in Memphis. They didn't have any talent this year, and the talent they did have kept getting hurt and he got fired. Like, what you want this man to do there with no talent and everybody hurt? So I think
like you got rid of him because Marc Gasol didn't like him. Like, come on, man. And then at the trade deadline, they were thinking about shipping Marc Gasol out. So it's like, what are you doing, Memphis?
Yeah, they should have shipped Marc Gasol out. You have a team that's rebuilding. Marc Gasol still very good, but he's 32, 33. So at this age, you think about somebody, a 7-footer, he's going to start declining pretty soon. You might as well go ahead and get out that contract and get him to a contender where he could be happy. And, he could have been a big help to somebody in the playoffs right now. But
Absolutely.
I do like Mark Jackson as a candidate because I want Mark Jackson to be a coach again. I think in Golden State, when all that drama went down, people were secretly recording him and whatnot, he got a bad name out of that, and I don't think he deserved that. You think about Golden State, before Mark Jackson got there, in your words, Golden State was ass. And you got to think about the fact that he's the one who brought a winning culture there. Now, Steve Kerr brought it up to the next level. I will give Steve Kerr his credit. A lot of people don't like to give Steve Kerr credit, but he is a very good coach, very good X and O guy.
Absolutely.
But without Mark Jackson, you don't have that foundation for Steve Kerr to take it to the next level. I think Mark Jackson definitely deserves another chance. Jeff Van Gundy as well. Jeff Van Gundy's been out for quite a while, but in his years in the league, he's always won. So I didn't understand why it was so hard for him to get a job either. So I think both those guys deserve jobs, but maybe they're in different places like Phoenix that's rebuilding and is going to be bringing in a bunch of young people. I don't know if New York is going to want Jeff Van Gundy back. So Fizdale or Mark Jackson, I think, will be the good picks there.
Absolutely, yeah. I like Mark Jackson. I like him, but it's time to get him off the broadcast. He's not as bad as Gruden, but it's like it's a lot of politicking when he commentates on games. Like, somebody just hire this guy. Please hire Mark Jackson so he can stop politicking for these jobs on air.
Yeah, no, that's true. And Jeff Van Gundy will call him out sometimes. Like, he'd be like, I know this isn't the Mark Jackson I know. What's going on?
Exactly.
But yeah, that's true. Like, when you can tell when they're looking for a job because they're not as honest about certain players. Like, we see this player being a bum right now, and you're not gonna call it out because you might have to coach him next year, and you don't want to hurt his feelings. Like, you got to be honest if you're gonna be out there. So make sure you're gonna be keeping it real.
One thing, as a Knicks fan, I tweeted this out. This is at the beginning of the playoffs. Mark Jackson said, J.R. Smith is a great player. He can play on my team any day. And as a Knicks fan, I said, oh, no, not again. Like, chill out, Mark. Like, I'm pretty sure that's going to cost you the job right there. But, I mean, I like Mark Jackson. I would, honestly, like you said, like, Phoenix would be really nice, a nice landing spot for Mark Jackson where he can be with Booker and Jackson and hopefully get some of those young players to move, man, because they got a lot of young first-round draft picks over there that just aren't motivated to play.
Yeah, definitely. I'm out here in the Phoenix area, and when you go to the games, you can tell they're just not motivated at all. And you're like, how are you in the NBA and you're not motivated to play basketball when it's your job? Like, it's your job to play ball for a living. Like, you should be doing this 100% at all times. So you need that coach to bring out that motivation even at the pro level. I think Mark Jackson could do that.
Now you said you're out in Arizona, right? So
yeah.
You go to the Suns game?
Yeah, I go to some of the Suns games.
Is it really as bad as Charles Barkley said on NBA? Is it on TNT where he said the chips are stale for the nachos? Instead of using jalapenos, they put pickles on them. The cushions or the seats are dirty. Is it really that bad?
No, the seats aren't dirty. It's not like that. But as far as the food, there's a bunch of restaurants around it. So I've never actually eaten the food in the arena. We always stop and get something to eat right outside the arena before the game. So that's probably why the food bad, because nobody actually eats the food. Because the way it's set up, you're always going to stop and get something to eat before you go in there. So I haven't had any bad experience with the seats because I cover the Mercury as well. So I haven't had any bad experiences with that. And the food I've had is all right because think about it. For some of the Mercury games, I do eat some of the food there. And yeah, it's been all right. I haven't had any. It's not, of course, like going to. I'm originally from New Orleans. It's not like going to a Saints game. You can't compare it to that.
Right.
But it's pretty good.
Absolutely, that's good. I just wanted to make sure because I got friends in Arizona. They be trying to get me to come out, check out a game, and I'm like, Chuck kind of ruined that for me.
Nah, it's not that bad. Chuck be exaggerating, but it's not that bad. Now, you grew up in Indiana, but you like the Raiders, the Knicks, USC football, UNC basketball. Why is your fandom all over the place?
All right, so I was born in California.
Okay.
I was born in California, moved here when I was younger. Well, actually, I moved to Illinois when I was younger. And when I got to high school, like towards the end of my high school days, I moved to Indiana. But my uncle was a big Raiders fan, and he was also a big Knicks fan. So growing up, my uncle, I just think he was the coolest man on the planet. And growing up, so I liked to do everything that he did as far as like when it comes to sports. So he was going. Everybody else in my family was going for the Bulls and Scottie Pippen, Michael Jordan. My uncle was going for the Knicks, so I was going for the Knicks. So growing up, he kind of instilled that Raiders on me, and I just took a hold of it. Now, as far as like North Carolina goes, I was like maybe about 12 or 11, and I watched the game. And if I'm right, Joe Forte was playing.
Okay.
And if people know Joe Forte from North Carolina, he was cold. So I'm like, whoever this guy is, I want to be like him, like Joe Forte. Like I would be outside shooting and playing basketball with my friends, and I'll shoot the ball, and I'll be like Joe Forte. And just as far as USC goes, that goes with the Raiders thing. Being born in California, I didn't like UCLA. I was always a USC guy, so that was just me.
Okay, no, those are very good reasons. You're not a bandwagon fan. I could appreciate that. Now,
oh no, not at all.
Now, speaking of USC, I'm not a big college football guy, but Sam Darnold did just get drafted by the New York Jets. You got to see him a lot. Do you think Sam Darnold will be that next big thing at the NFL level?
I think he is going to be great. The thing that he has to work on is the fumbles and going through his progressions. But if the Jets are willing to put weapons around them, which I don't think they did with this draft, if he's going to sit for a year, you got time. But I think Sam Darnold, if weapons are put around him, the right weapon, he's going to be outstanding.
Okay. I have liked what I've seen from highlights. He looks like he has definitely an NFL arm. You're going to need that in New York with that win. And my man's head is shaped very weirdly. Like, I feel like he has a big brain in there that he'll be able to diagnose defenses because it works when you have he has that Peyton Manning type head. Like Peyton Manning, the reason Peyton Manning was able to run the offense himself is because of the size of his head. You got to have a big brain in there with the size of that type of head. So whenever I see a quarterback with a Peyton Manning type head, I'm like, oh, that dude's gonna work out. So I think Sam Darnold's gonna make it.
So I got a ginormous head. For those who know me, they probably laugh, and whoever listens to this, they gonna laugh. But I have a really ginormous head, so I should have, instead of being a 5'10" backup power forward, I should have been a 5'10" backup quarterback.
No, that's the way to go. That's the way to go.
It would have changed my life.
If you listening to this podcast, you are an aspiring athlete and you have a big head, be a quarterback. Because you're going to be able to diagnose the defense. All right. So we're going to take our first commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about NBA playoffs. So today's episode of The Real Deal with Damian Adams is brought to you by Quip. Quip is the company that is there for your oral needs. So if you are a busy person on the go and you always flying around, you need an electric toothbrush with you, go to tryquip.com/therealdeal. You get $5 off your refills. Again, that's tryquip.com/therealdeal. Get $5 off your refills and keep your mouth clean, all right? Again, that's tryquip.com/therealdeal. All right, welcome back to The Real Deal with Damian Adams. We're still here with J.Oden, host of Call It What You Want podcast. And now we're about to get into these NBA playoffs. Now, as we're talking right now, the Cavaliers and Toronto Raptors are warming up, getting ready to play. And we're going to be rushing after this podcast to get off and watch the game. Let's start the Cavaliers. For this series, what do the Cavaliers need to do to beat Toronto?
I could give the easy answer and say make shots. It's more to it. It's, in my opinion, it's not even yes, the players on the floor have a lot to do with it, but Ty Lue has to put them in position to be successful. I don't like his rotations, and I've let that be known on Twitter. I am not a fan of Ty Lue's, like his rotations, the lineups he put on the floor. It's like you put guys in at the wrong time, and you don't even let them really get comfortable. So you're yanking guys out like Jordan Clarkson and Rodney Hood. You know, get out early like they did against the Pacers on Sunday. They were hitting their shots. They got out early. They can beat Toronto. I got the Cavaliers in 6. Hopefully I'm not jumping the gun. But I got the Cavs winning this in 6.
Okay, I definitely can see that. Now, from Toronto's side, what do you think they can do to try to stop the Cavaliers from beating them once again?
Well, for the Toronto Raptors, it's not even they have a two-part question. Number one, they're dealing with two different things. They have to shake the narrative that they can't beat LeBron, so they're playing against that on their own. And then you have to you got DeRozan and you got Lowry, who they usually shrink in the second round of the playoffs or against the Cavaliers in general. So I think that pressure alone for those two players is too much. But if Kyle Lowry comes out and he's aggressive and he's playing the right way, playing within the system and seeing some shots fall, I could easily be wrong. Toronto could take that, but history just shows that Toronto isn't that team. So that's why I say like the Cavs, they get it at 6. Toronto may get one of these games at home because Toronto has the best home record, but I just don't see it just translating into the win of the series.
Now, you said you're not a big Ty Lue fan, but I will give Ty Lue a little credit. I like that he finally realized that even though Tristan Thompson may not be faithful, my man is faithful to getting rebounds. He's somebody you have to have out there with LeBron, because not only is he good at getting rebounds, but he's a great defender when on top of his game. We saw that in the 2016 NBA Finals when Tristan Thompson was a very big part of that series, being able to switch out on Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and stick guards for, not for long periods of time. No big man could do that. But for spurts here and there, he's able to stick guards and just make it tough on the defense by switching out, getting back, and just being a hound on the boards. That's a big part of the game.
Oh, yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And that's one thing. That's why I like Tristan Thompson, and I said this before. Like, Tristan Thompson and Cedi Osman should have gotten minutes. Cedi Osman is a very tight defender. Like, he gets up on you, he makes you uncomfortable. Yeah, he can't shoot. He has no offense whatsoever. But he could have been like Delly was a couple years ago. But as far as like Tristan Thompson, he's a great pick and roll defender. Teams eat all day on Kevin Love when he's trying to defend on the pick and roll. They feast on Kevin Love. With Tristan Thompson, you can put him out 15, 17 feet out and say, hey, guard this perimeter player. And he's going to guard him. And that's, yeah, for all the bad things that Tyronn Lue does, that is one of the few thumbs up moments.
So because he found that lineup in Game 7 against the Pacers, I think he should stick to it against the Raptors. When you have Valanciunas out there for the Raptors, you can put Tristan Thompson on him because you don't have Valanciunas have to worry about him going to the three-point line too much. He can go out there and make a few shots, but he's not going to live at the three-point line. So you have Tristan Thompson there to defend the pick and rolls of Lowry and DeRozan. It makes a big difference. So I think you stay with that lineup. You stay with the horses that got you there, because those 5 that started against the Pacers in Game 7 are only 5 left from the championship team. So when you have those 5 guys, you know that those guys are not going to be scared of the moment. And those guys can show the bench players, okay, this is the effort we bring in. They can set the tone. So I think that's a key, is to go with what you know. Of course, you got to have lineups as well where you have LeBron surrounded by shooters. But also, to one of your points that you like to make, I heard on one of your podcasts, you got to let the other players do their thing as well. I want you to talk about, I don't want to steal your point. You made a great point about how even though LeBron is great, he could kind of hinder the creativity of other players on their team. Expound on that for me.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I love LeBron. I am a LeBron supporter. But he does, it's kind of like he kind of handicaps some of your players. Like, especially Rodney Hood. Rodney Hood is not a stand at the three-point line type of player. Rodney Hood is a free throw line in, spot-up jumper type of player. And him just standing there waiting for LeBron to drive to the hole and kick it out, that's not his game. Same thing with Jordan Clarkson. Jordan Clarkson is not just a stand there and wait for a three-point guy. He attacks the basket as well. So it's kind of like you got to let them play their style. And like I said, when they first came in to the Cavs, the first two games that they had, I think before the All-Star break, was against the Celtics and the Thunder. And they beat both of them. Like, they whooped their ass. And they had no set plays. It was just like, go do your thing, here's the ball, go do you. And Rodney Hood was balling. Jordan Clarkson was crazy. He had the three-point to the elbow with the arm down, tongue out thing going in the LeBron. But once they learned those plays and they realized, like, hey, this is what you got to do playing with LeBron, it's like, oh, no, what did I sign up for? It's like it takes the fun out of being a basketball player. And I've been saying this. Everybody on the bandwagon with the Cavs saying, like, well, after the trade deadline that they're going to go to the finals and this is the best supporting cast that LeBron had. They still have some really good players. They just have to be comfortable. And I will say this, because I get very long-winded, but Rodney Hood is the ultimate loser from that trade deadline. He lost a lot of money, and he's a free agent this year.
Oh. Yeah, that's a really good point. Because if he was still in Utah, he'd probably getting 17, 18 points a game right now. He would be a part of this Utah team that's playing the Rockets right now, that's in the second round getting this exposure. But he's still getting exposure, but not in the right way right now.
He went from getting exposure to getting exposed.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. That's a very good way of putting it. Now, for the Raptors, I agree with you that they still have the ghost of LeBron in their head. And I made a joke the other day when I made a video for the First Take Your Take competition that DeMar DeRozan might be sleeping and wake up in cold sweats thinking about LeBron. And they have to get over that hump. They have to realize that they have the better team. Like, overall, they have the better team. They have a really good bench. The bench might have been great this year. You got two stars in Lowry and Rosen. Got really good third options there. They have to realize that they are the one seed. They can't come into this game thinking like they're the team that's been playing the Cleveland Cavaliers all these past years. They have to come into this game thinking, we can win this. Not we can, we will win this. But I still don't think they will have that mentality, though.
No, they won't. I mean, as a team, you're only as good as your best two players, really. Sometimes your best three players. And for them, for like DeRozan and for Lowry, if they're battling not only the ghost of LeBron, but like their playoff success, or lack of success, it's going to be a long series for them. Now, the downside is that if they ball out, great. But the bad is if they don't win, Casey's gone. Like, they've had a lot of like really good teams and a lot of playoff games, but they just don't get over the hump. So I think they're going to go in a different direction and get that coach that they feel can get them over the hump.
Wow. I think the crazy thing is I think Casey's a good coach. Like, we can't blame it on him when, Lowry needs to go to the locker room to decompress during the playoffs. Like, it's certain things that are outside of his realm. It's not like with Terry Stotts, for example. I think Terry Stotts did a horrible job in the playoffs against the Pelicans. Now, being a Pelicans fan, I appreciate the fact that he didn't adjust. Made it an easy sweep for us. But when you have the Pelicans playing Damian Lillard the way he is, why not adjust and have Damian Lillard come off the ball? the Pelicans have a small starting lineup with Rondo, Holiday, and Etuan Moore out there. So you got three guards. You can go three guards. You start Shabazz Napier, and you have McCollum and Lillard come off the ball. You could be creative with those guys running screens for each other and all this different type. There's so many different things you could do if you have those two guys coming off the ball. But you still decide to have Damian Lillard just run point and run those pick and rolls, which you knew we was going to trap and find different ways to get the ball out of his hand. And you got not getting Drew Holiday off of him at all. People always, point the finger to Damian Lillard. He made the adjustments he could make in that system. He started to pass the ball earlier, get other people involved. But he wasn't going to be able to create any offense for himself because the Pelicans' whole plan was to stop Damian Lillard. Like, McCollum started getting hot. Like, if you look at McCollum's numbers were good during the series. But he needed Damian Lillard also to win those games. And when you see the game plan is to stop this one guy, you have to adjust.
Exactly.
So I think Dwayne Casey is somebody who can make adjustments. We've seen it. The Toronto Raptors, for some reason, just can't win playoff series easily. They have to go through some adversity, and he always does make adjustments during that time. So I think he gets a bad rap because players like Lowry and even sometimes DeRozan hasn't shown up in those big moments.
Yeah, but Portland, what they have to do is, one thing that Portland has that's really weird to me, a lot of their others are all the same type of players. Like Mo Harkless, he hasn't improved at all since he's been in the NBA. Amino, he developed a three-point shot. But you got your bigs, they all kind of play the same. Like, they put in Zach Collins, he's an athletic big. But Portland just didn't, they just don't match up well with most teams. Like, they got hot during the season. But overall, that team is just weird to me. That's just a weirdly constructed team.
Well, one thing that I suggested during my last episode, it all depends on what Paul George wants to do, though. If Paul George is willing to go to Portland and play with Damian Lillard, do a sign and trade with Paul George going to Portland for C.J. McCollum and maybe another piece, and that creates just changes the dynamic of both teams. And I think it helped them going forward. It's just a crazy idea I had to help both squads out. But like I said, it depends on Paul George because he can go anywhere he wants to go this offseason. Now, speaking of...
I like Paul George, and not to get too ahead of myself, but I like Paul George in Philly. I really like Paul George in Philly.
Ooh.
But we will see. He did just today, his people came out and said today that he's leaving OKC.
Oh, wow, that didn't last too long. That was just the other day he said, I want to stay in OKC. I got to make my options and just look over things, but I would love to stay here. 2 days later, he was like, oh, I'm gone? Dang. Okay.
Yeah, it just came out maybe 2 or 3 hours ago. Someone that I think it was Ryan Russillo that he trusts said that Paul George is leaving OKC.
Dang, that's crazy. Yeah, he definitely did not waste any time making that part of the decision. But Philly is very interesting. Philly definitely is an interesting place. Speaking of Philly, last night, a lot of people expected Philly to go into Boston and lay the hammer down, especially with Boston being so short-handed. He even lost another player in Jaylen Brown who's out with a hamstring. And even with all those injuries, Boston still found a way to win this game, 117-101. You had Ben Simmons out there who had 18 points and 6 assists, but also had 7 turnovers. Joel Embiid had a pretty good game with 31 points, but he also was a turnover machine. J.J. Redick had 20 points. And only 2 players off their bench even scored. I think that was one of the big differences in this game. But for Boston, their big three, which is not your traditional big three, but you had Jason Tatum with 28, Terry Rozier with 29 out there wearing the Drew Bledsoe jersey, out here trolling Eric Bledsoe. And you had Al Horford with 26 points. Now, before I get into the game, you text me during the game. You said Al Horford is out here playing like an uncle with jean shorts on. Please explain to the people why you said that.
It's just like the most basic, simple things, and it gets you. Like when you're a kid, you're getting out there, you playing with your uncle. Every uncle just want to back you down. You can't dribble. You got no outside shot. They all uncles. I don't care who you are. If you got an uncle that's over the age of 40, he plays like Shaq in Phoenix. I ain't gonna give him credit to say he play like Shaq with the Lakers or the Magic, but he play like Shaq in Phoenix. Like he just back you down, stuff, and they'd be like, man, how did that even go in? And then he'll look at you and say that's skill. But it's like watching Al Horford dribble, it's like, man, like how is he doing this? Like, what's going on? Like, I think it was like in the second quarter, he was backing down. I don't remember if he was backing down, but he went left and got like this weird dunk. And it was like, man, how is he doing this? Like, how do you let Al Horford, who was like, I don't want to say he's like Tim Duncan, but fundamentally on that horizon of like a Tim Duncan, it's like you're not flashy. It's just you stick to the basics, and that's what Al Horford is. And like I said it in my podcast, like I am not a Horford guy. I think he is ass, but he's got my respect because he balls. Like, he brings it. It's basic, but he brings it.
Yeah, definitely. He brings it. He's definitely stepped his game up since they've had all the injuries. And he's had to. He's getting paid $30 million a year. Like, we forget that. Al Horford, you're getting paid big-time money. And during the regular season, you're out here getting 12 points a game. He's a great team player. He's playing great team defense, and he does all the right things, always in the right place. But that's a $10 million role to be in the right place at the right time. That's not a $30 million role. Like, so
yeah,
I'm glad I'm glad to see him stepping up. Now, in this game, I thought that Philadelphia just got out executed. Like, with a Brad Stevens coach team, they're going to execute. No matter who they have out there, they're going to execute their plays. They're going to get open shots. And Philly just didn't look ready. It looked like that week off really, played a part in this game. And I think it'll be different going forward. I got Philly winning in 6. How you feel about that prediction?
As a LeBron fan, I really want Boston to win this series because I think that they could, if they were to beat Toronto, they could beat Boston to get to the finals. Because Philly is, if they clicking on all cylinders, and it doesn't even have to be Embiid and Simmons every night. Like, Robert Covington has been ass all playoffs, but Ilya Sosa, Sarge, J.J. Redick has just been killing. Like, if those three plus Embiid and Simmons are on, you can't beat Philly. So, like, I have to root for Boston. Like, I want Boston, and I prefer a sweep, but I think it's going to be Philadelphia in 7.
Ooh, Philadelphia in 7. Winning Game 7 in Boston. Ooh, that would be epic. Now, I think that they'll settle down in Game 2. Come back and they'll get a victory in Boston. Boston is going to be there, though. They're not going to go away. Like, a lot of people joke with me that Marcus Smart's my favorite player because I hate Marcus Smart so much. Because but he does make good plays. Like, he's going to make those plays that change the game for you. He's going to get some offensive rebound when you don't expect him to, over 4 different people. He's going to take a charge right at the right moment. But he also is going to shoot shots where you're like, come on. We know you can't shoot. Why are you shooting right now?
You know how they say, like, short people have the Napoleon complex?
Yeah.
It's like Marcus Smart has the Westbrook complex. It's like you see, like, the flow of the game, you see everything going right, and then you just take that really dumbass 3. It's like, for what? But Marcus Smart, even Westbrook, they don't take just one bad 3. They take multiple bad 3s. And, like, Marcus Smart, I am not a big Marcus Smart guy. I think I like him for them. He's just like Lance Stevenson. He fits what the team needs. Like, he's like the enforcer, the tough guy, like the fiery guy of the team. And that's what every team needs, that guy. But as a player, offensively, he's double ass.
Yeah, and I agree with you there because, like you said, the 3-point shots, and it's not the fact that he takes, because if you're open, you got to make him respected. Like with Rondo, every once in a while, Rondo will take a 3-point shot just to make you remember, like, okay, I'm an NBA player now. Like, I know I'm not known as the best shooter, but I'm still going to take this shot just to make sure you come out here just a little bit. But like you said, with Marcus Smart, he act like he Westbrook. Like, he just out here taking threes. Now, speaking of Westbrook had an incident at the end of the Utah Jazz series. They lost in 6 games. I can see why he was frustrated. He's went off in the last game, shot 43 shots, but was playing his heart out as both Paul George and Carmelo was under 10 points in the game. It's inexcusable. But after the game, he's going off the court, and there's a fan with a phone, and he got the phone right next to his face. Westbrook slaps the phone away from his face and says, "Get the phone out of my face." Security comes in. Nobody's harmed. After that, he gets press conference where he says Utah's fans really say a lot of vulgar and disrespectful things that go outside of basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think Westbrook had the right to react in that fashion?
Every NBA player, every athlete, I'm not even going to say just NBA player, every athlete is a man and a woman before anything else. And with Westbrook, when they talk about your family, it's proven. I don't know if you remember if you follow the Bulls, but Antonio Davis, his were at, and a fan was doing his wife, and the name says went from the court into the stand. I know people will say that you're an athlete, it comes with the territory, you got to have you're a man or a woman above anything else. And I think that the NBA has a real, because if a player or a coach says anything about an official, they're getting fined $15,000. Well, the fans can say whatever they want to an athlete, and nothing happens to them. And it's all because of two things. Number one, entitlement, because people hear that, oh yeah, these players, these fans pay these players salaries. And number two, when people get that league, they feel like they can do and say. And I think Westbrook is right, man. And if I was in an NBA committee, like one of like Adam Silver or someone like that, like either A, stop selling alcohol after halftime, and if an incident happens, get out of the game, and not from that game, they can't come back for the rest of the year any arena.
Yeah. Now, I'm definitely right there with you when it comes to athletes being humans first. Like, we're all human, we all got emotions, and we know Westbrook is super competitive. So he's very frustrated that they lost to the Utah Jazz. He's coming off a bad game. Now, the one thing I will say is that particular fan didn't say anything. Like, he had the camera way too close. You got people's personal space right there. But I did see the video from the camera. Like, they had an interview with the guy who slapped the camera down. He said his particular section wasn't saying anything. And you watch the video, he's not saying much. He just got the camera out. Now, he did get too close. Now, Westbrook could have reacted a little differently, just backed up, like, hey, back up, or not, not actually slap the camera out of his face, because you, the athlete in that situation, you're the one with something to lose. That fan has nothing to lose in that situation. So just from that aspect of it, you have to be like, okay, I'm mad right now, but let me just back about the situation, because if I mess around and hit this fan too hard, he could sue me. I could get suspended for some games next year. I have a lot more to lose than this guy. But to the dude's credit, he said, "Oh, go ahead."
No, but before, I don't know if it was before or after. They had the guy with the beard who was right there talking stuff to Westbrook. I don't remember if that was before the camera incident or after. Most of that section where the man and his wife was with the camera, and he was like saying really tough things to Westbrook.
Yeah,
they showed it at first, but after once the incident happened, they stopped showing that clip. Just how like, and I hate to say how the media does it, because even though we're not like media, but having a podcast or something like it, people look to you for information. But like sometimes they only want to show part of the incident. But I don't know if it was before that or after the camera, but it was a guy, he had like a dark beard. He was right there talking stuff to Westbrook.
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, everybody's human. We all have emotions. We're all going to react to things being said. And as fans, we've both been to games. We would never say crazy things to people. Like, I'm not going to say anything to you that I wouldn't say to you in the street. Right?
Right.
And of course, it's a little different now because, I work for the 3-point conversion. I'm covering games and stuff now. So I'm more when I go to games, I think I see it differently now. But even as just a fan, I didn't want to say anything that if I was playing, I wouldn't want somebody to say to me. Like, I might say, you a bum. Like, hey, stop shooting, you a bum. Like, but that's probably as far as it's going to go. You suck.
Exactly.
Like, I'm going to keep it on the basketball court. Like, the same things I would say to somebody when I'm playing basketball. If I'm talking trash to you playing basketball, it's probably the same things I'll say in the stands. But I'm not going to go past that level to talk about your family. Because, first of all...
Exactly.
Go ahead.
No, I agree with you 100%. But the problem is not only do they get it at the games, they also get it on social media too.
Yeah.
Like when that LeBron thing came out with like Delonte West and LeBron's mom. Like, can you imagine? as a man, like people just talking stuff about like this is your dad, your mom is sleeping with this. Like that's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, it's a lot that you just can't cross. And you see it all the time. I'm sure you look on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and you see people who say these things like, you suck, or you ain't this, you ain't the king, you're a B word. Like, come on. Like what part of your life do you hate that much that you have to go that far?
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's never that serious for me to call somebody out their name, anything like that. And... unfortunately, that part's never going to change. People are going to say crazy things. You shouldn't, but you definitely should not go after the family. Now, the NBA, of course, is very sensitive about this because of what happened with Ron Artest those years back with the Malice in the Palace. And we shouldn't laugh about it, but I still get a chuckle every time I see Jermaine O'Neal slide into that punch and knock that fat dude out. It still makes me a little warm inside, but we don't want that to happen. All right, so we need fans to chill out. And remember that. Remember, these dudes are human. And unlike you, they're 6'8" and athletic. So if you get in a fight with them, you're not going to win. So remember that when you talk trash to these dudes. Like I said, you have the right to talk a little trash. You have the right to say boo. You have the right to say you suck. Or you have the right to say, oh, you're a bum. You're not going to make that shot. Brick. You have the right to say all those things. Talk a little basketball trash. But once it goes beyond that, if somebody, especially if somebody actually gets a video of you saying something crazy to one of these players and they react, then they're going to have the evidence to say why I did this. And when you get beat up and nobody feels sorry for you, don't look for us after you say something crazy. So just remember what happened. This has been a while back, so it's in the back of people's minds now. People don't remember Ryan Artest going to those stands, Jermaine O'Neal knocking that fat dude out, and Steven Jackson just going crazy. Remember that. All right? These dudes are human.
And another thing people have to remember, as a former athlete, one thing that you're taught is that you have to hate to lose more than you like to win.
Very true.
So if you're a competitive person, like hating to lose, like I'm an ultra competitive person. Like I don't like I'll get out there, like my nephew will play like some Madden or we'll play a game. I'm choosing because I hate to lose. Like if like me and my nephew playing basketball, I will face an injury if I don't lose. So you gotta hate to lose more than you love to win. So when these guys come off the floor and they had left it all on the floor for 6, 7 games or whatever it is, don't come up to them with no smoke because they're not for it.
That's a very good point. They're already in the mind state where they're pissed off and you're coming to them with that camera right in their face. So, like I said, the guy who had the camera in his face, he's not trying to get any money or anything like that. He did come out and say, I did put the camera too close, but I didn't say anything in that moment. And he showed the video camera. He wasn't saying anything, but of course you got a personal space, dog. Everybody got a little 2 feet bubble, dog. Like, just respect my bubble. I respect your bubble.
All right, just want to give you a little bit of breaking news. George Hill starting over at the top tonight.
Okay. I do like George Hill. He was big in Game 7. George Hill is somebody who has playoff experience, especially those years with the Spurs and Pacers. So he's somebody who can play big in those moments. So I don't mind that move. Calderon is somebody out there just defensively is a liability. Offensively, you put some pressure on him. It's hard. So we'll see. We'll see what he does. But I like George Hill.
Right on.
Now, I talked about my Pelicans a little bit earlier. Game 1 against the Warriors was a little rough. We lost 118-101, and it really wasn't that close. Anthony Davis had 21 points. Drew Holiday only had 11. Etuan Moore had 15. Mirotic only had 9. Then you had Golden State with Klay Thompson with 27. KD with 26. Draymond Green had a triple-double of 16, 15, and 11. And the second quarter was a big difference. The game was close, and then next thing you know, Golden State went on this crazy run, and they won the second quarter 41-21. Do you think my Pelicans are done, especially with Steph coming back tonight?
I appreciate you having me on the show. I appreciate you taking the time out and talking to me. It's over, bro. It's done. You need to go ahead and sit down. Congrats to Alvin Gentry. You got an extension. You got him to the playoffs. Focus in. It's a good thing if they do, but they're going to lose. It's not if they do lose. They're going to lose. But it puts a nasty taste in their mouth. And now if they get Boogie back, and I'm saying if Boogie was playing, that's a major difference. But overall, what if it's over? Golden State's going on. Pelicans good season.
See, that's the thing, though. You didn't believe in the Pelicans against Portland either. All right? People been sleeping on us all year. Now, of course, this is not Portland. You're right. But I do think the Pelicans can make a series out of it. I picked Golden State in 7, right? It went against everything in my soul. But because they have so much talent and there's so much depth and they've been here before, and without Boogie, like you mentioned, if we had Boogie right now, it would change the matchups up so much. But Steve Kerr did a great job in Game 1 of throwing a wrench into whatever we thought we was going to do, because he started Nick Young. Instead of going with JaVale McGee or Zaza, he went small to where basically Kevin Durant was playing center, or Draymond, if you want to put it that way. And now we had to put Mirotic on Kevin Durant, which is a total mismatch, and he just threw everything off. Tonight, they're probably going to start Steph, of course, and probably have Iguodala at the 3. Or maybe they'll still go with Nick Young and have Iguodala come off the bench. Because of that, it throws everything off. So hopefully we can adjust to that. But I do think with Anthony Davis, you have a chance in the series. Drew Holiday is going to play much better than he did last night. That was, not last night, but night before last. That was just horrible.
Yeah.
So I think they can make a series out of it. But of course, I got Golden State winning. Hopefully they can prove me wrong. But I got to go with that. And
hey, I like your hope. I like that you have faith in your team. But it's done. It's over. Benito.
Oh man, I knew where you was going when you started giving me compliments. I was like, oh, he about to kill my team right now.
Yeah, like I think I actually hit you up and was like, man, Golden State killed my hope for your Pelicans. I hit you up and said that. Like it was over. Like I was sitting down, I'm like, yeah, Pelicans, let's go. I think they can make this the series. And then the jump ball came.
Oh, man. Like I said, it was one big run last game, though. If we could stay away from that big run, we'll be all right. Because the first quarter, we looked good. And then that second quarter, it just was over. But hopefully, we'll see tonight, man. Now, there is the forgotten series in the second round. I even forgot to talk about it in our text back and forth about the rundown. But Utah is playing Houston this round, and it seems like it's a forgotten series. Do you think Utah has any chance against Houston?
I'm going to just say this. I got Houston winning the championship.
Okay. So that definitely...
That's my walk-off. That's my walk-off home run right there. I got Houston winning the championship.
I can see that. I definitely can see that. Houston has a team that can compete with a Golden State or the Pelicans if they pull off the upset. But they definitely have depth, and you have a team there with James Harden and Chris Paul that you just don't get a break. Like if James Harden is off, then you got Chris Paul running that pick and roll and running that offense. It never ends. So I definitely can see that.
And you come off the bench. Yeah, you come off the bench with Gordon. You got Ryan Anderson. Gerald Green has been an unsung hero. And not to mention one of the most underrated players in the NBA, Clint Capella.
Very true.
He grabs every rebound. People sleep on Clint Capella. Like he averaged 14 and 10 on the regular season and only played 27 minutes a game. Like he's a high energy player. and he's forgotten about. But, yeah, they have the team. And I think that they're going to do it. I mean, if they can get past this round, ain't no if, but when they get past this round, barring injuries, knock on wood, I got them going all the way. All the way.
Yeah, I definitely can see a sweep happening with Utah. You know, Utah has had a really good year, but you have a rookie leading you against Houston. It's not a good matchup. So I definitely can see that.
Oh yeah, and then like people don't understand. Like your point guard is the most important player on your team. Like you're only as good as your primary ball handler, and I know I said it earlier. We're only as good as your best two players, but most cases one of your best two players is your point guard. But with Rubio being out, Rubio makes more of a difference being out than it would be for like a Gobert being out. Like he puts you in different positions. He creates like things on the court that most people don't see. So without Rubio, like if Rubio was there, they may win one game. But without Rubio, they're done.
No, that's a very good point. He definitely sets the tone for them, tempo, putting everybody in position. He's like a Rondo almost in that aspect of being able to run your offense in that way, and he doesn't have to score. Like that's one of the things that made me kind of mad with Westbrook. He was set on stopping Ricky Rubio, and Kenny Smith did a great job of showing one of those games where Russell Westbrook is sticking Ricky Rubio and staying home on Ricky Rubio, who's not a great shooter, and you got Rudy Gobert getting rolls to the basket when it's your job to come down there and tag him and beat a guy stopping the roller. But you out here sticking to Ricky Rubio. Come on, man.
Once we get off the phone, I'm going to send you a text message. I'm going to screenshot a text message that I sent to my barber. And I told him, that personal matchup with Westbrook wanting to stop Rubio was the dumbest thing I've ever heard. You want to stop a guy who doesn't score. He just happens to take advantage of the lack of defense, gets a triple-double, and now you want to go all out to stop this player. That is why you're going to be bounced, and that's why you will not win a championship with that mentality.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that one. So now let's take a hard turn into the NFL. NFL draft just got finished this past weekend. Who was your winner of the NFL draft?
All right, so everybody knows from listening I'm a Raiders fan. But I'm not going with the Raiders. I actually had co-winners, and they're actually in the same division. They're both in the NFC North. The Chicago Bears and the Green Bay Packers.
Okay.
The Green Bay Packers got two cornerbacks within their first two picks, and both were projected to be first rounders, and they drafted off what they needed, and that's huge for them because they already had the offense. And to get two really good corners, young corners at that, makes the world of difference. And being so close to Chicago, by being in Indiana, I'm right on the border. Everybody talked about Ryan Pace, the Bears GM, as being lost and not knowing what to do, not being an aggressive guy. And last year he got played by trading up one spot, giving up a lot of picks. But this year they were aggressive. They had a first-round pick. They had a second-round pick. I believe they didn't have a third. So they packaged the fourth-round pick with next year's second and went up and got a really good receiver. So, they picked up a center who could play guard and center, and they also got Roquan Smith from Georgia. I just got to give it to the Bears and the Packers. A-pluses in my opinion.
Okay, those are two very good picks. I'm going to go with co-winners as well. Got to go with Denver. I know as a Raiders fan you hate to hear that, but
absolutely.
When Bradley Chubb fell to 5 and they got to add him on the other side of Von Miller, that's nuts. And when you think about those years when they were contending for Super Bowls and the year they won a Super Bowl, they were purely doing it on defense. And that defensive line, of course, they had a great secondary, no-fly zone. But with the defensive line, Von Miller and those guys getting there super fast, creating all these turnovers, they had Peyton Manning as a shell of himself and still won a Super Bowl. And now they're starting to create that again with the draft they had this year. With the other winner, got to go to the Baltimore Ravens. Joe Flacco has been pure trash. Just a bum.
Super ass.
Exactly. And it was time for him to move on. Now, Lamar Jackson, a lot of people think he's not ready this year, but I think we're going to see him this year. I think that was a great move by them to trade up and get him at the end of the first round. It is underrated that they got him at the end of the first round because now they get an extra year with him under that first contract to make sure that he works out. And he also has an example of what not to do in his locker room. RG3 just got signed there. Somebody who can be like, okay, I see exactly what not to do at the start of my career and how to not create, these relationships that mess me up in the future. I think Lamar Jackson's going to be really good for Baltimore going forward. They also had really good draft picks later on in the draft, getting tight ends and things that they needed. So I like Baltimore and Denver as my winners. Did you have any losers?
My loser is simple. Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, James Washington in the second round. You took the other Edmonds twin, a safety from Z-Tech in the first round. He most likely would have been there in the second. I think they had a second to third round grade on him. Mason Rudolph, I think Mason Rudolph is an okay project, but I just didn't like the draft. I mean, you lost some offensive linemen you need to replace. You really didn't go that route to replace them. And for a quarterback, you're only as good as your people, the players around you, and you need that offensive line to protect you. And Big Ben has been injury prone over the years, and now you take away his own lineman, it's not an issue.
Yeah, no, that's a very good pick. I didn't understand why they didn't get Lamar Jackson when he was there. Ben Roethlisberger been flirting with retirement for 2-3 years now. Go ahead and get that backup quarterback ready and waiting. Now, my loser, it's hard for me to pick this team as a loser because they've been great in the draft the past few years. Last year, they picked the offensive and defensive rookie of the year. I'm talking about my New Orleans Saints. Now, they have the credibility to do what they did. They made this crazy trade where they went up from 27 to 14, and everybody and their mama thought, oh, they about to get Lamar Jackson.
Lamar.
You got you got Drew Brees, who's 39, going on 40. You about to get Lamar Jackson to come in as a backup and learn behind one of the greatest of all time. But we picked up defensive lineman out of a very small school. Now, the guy looks like a beast. Now, hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully he can add to what we need because Cameron Jordan can be by himself sometimes on the defensive line. If you have somebody else coming off the other edge, it's going to make it easy for him. But what they gave up their first this year. They gave up the 27 to get the 14th, a 5th round pick, and also the first next year. And I was like, when you make that type of move, usually you're getting a quarterback. Now, I understand edge rushers may be the second most important position. You can decide if it's that or left tackle. But, come on, man. And this guy is somebody who's raw. He's somebody who has athletic ability, but the technique isn't there yet. They've all acknowledged that. So if you're not getting Bradley Chubb at that spot, why would you make that trade? Now, if you made a trade to get up to 4 or 5 and you get Bradley Chubb, you're like, okay, we in business. But the fact that you made that trade up there and we didn't get a tight end in the draft, everybody thought we was going to get a tight end. We did not get a tight end at all. Not only did we not get a tight end in the early rounds like people thought we was going to do, we didn't get a tight end at all. Are we trying to depend on Benjamin Watson, who's about the same age as my mom's? We can't be doing that. Now, Benjamin Watson's a very good player, somebody who's had a very good career, but he got a year, 2 left tops. So you need that. I don't know if Kobe Fleener's even there anymore. Kobe Fleener is somebody who can't hold on to the ball. So you got Benjamin Watson to replace him. Benjamin Watson's, I want to say 36. So when you have an aging tight end, and the tight end is a big part of our offense. You think about those years with Jimmy Graham, that seam route, the wheel route to tight end, those are big parts of the Saints offense. If you have a dynamic tight end, it changes everything. So I just didn't.
If I'm right, they also lost Willie Snead, right?
We did lose Willie Snead. Now, we did replace him with Cameron Meredith from the Bears. Who's very good.
ACL injury.
Yeah, he is coming off ACL. Willie Snead, I like Willie Snead a lot as our receiver. Last year was rough for him. He had the DUI where he got suspended. Then he had a hamstring issue. He never really got in the rhythm last year. and we had Brandon Coleman kind of taking his spot. Brandon Coleman's finally coming around, very good athlete, 6'6" guy, and we had him playing Willie Snead's spots. So Willie Snead was expendable, and then we did replace him with somebody who coming off an ACL, but he is somebody who is a very good possession receiver. But yeah, we did get a receiver in the draft. I will give him that. We got a receiver in the draft who looks like his college highlights are crazy, very fast. And whenever Breeze has somebody with speed, he definitely knows how to use them. So I will give him credit for that. But I just didn't like the move in the first round to give up all that to get a defensive lineman who's still raw. Now, hopefully they prove me wrong. Hopefully, because I am a Saints fan, I'm going to cheer for this guy just like everybody else. And now the expectations are on him, though. If he doesn't come out the gates booming, they're like, we gave up all that for this? So he's going to have expectations and pressure on him, too. So that's going to be my loser, the Saints, right now. But, like I said, the Saints have built credibility with their past few drafts. You get a player like Alvin Kamara and Marshawn Lattimore in the same year. Also, our starting right tackle was a rookie last year. And even Marcus Williams, good safety. I got to give it to him, even though he made the worst play in history against the Minnesota Vikings. you still have to give him credit for the year he had last year. I think he's going to be great going forward. That was an awesome draft last year, like one of the best drafts of all time. Maybe the best when you think about having offense and defensive rookie on the same team. So they built credibility, but they can't lose it just that fast. So now it's time.
Honestly, I thought the Saints,
go ahead.
They traded up, when they traded up, I honestly thought that they were going to get Lamar or Derwin James.
Oh, Derwin, our safety. So Marcus Williams is a good safety, free safety. But if you want to have another safety who's beasting, get Derwin James. That's a very good point. Because we lost, I ain't going to say lost, we just let go of Vaccaro. So when you let go of Vaccaro, we got Von Bell there now. Von Bell was a second-round pick a couple years ago in that same draft with Michael Thomas. So when you have Von Bell, who's undersized, are you trying to give him the keys to that safety position? Or maybe you just bring in Derwin James and you can still have Von Bell come in as a nickelback and things of that nature. Very good point, man. So before I get too upset about the Saints draft, it's time for us to move on to sports trivia. This is where I challenge our guests with sports trivia about their favorite teams. I also challenge you, the audience. You can play along as well. Are you ready for sports trivia?
Absolutely. Y'all don't clown me too much.
So for the first question, we're going to go with New York Knicks trivia. Who is the all-time leader in three-point field goals made for the New York Knicks? Is it Allen Houston, Carmelo Anthony, John Starks, or Jamal Crawford? I'm going to give it to you one more time. Who is the all-time leader in three-point field goals made for the New York Knicks? Is it Allen Houston, Carmelo Anthony, John Starks, or Jamal Crawford?
Let me see. One Starks. I want to say Allen Houston.
Very good guess, but incorrect. The correct answer is John Starks. Yes, a lot of people sleep on John Starks, man. John Starks hit 982 three-pointers during his time with the Knicks from 1990 to 98.
Wow. I didn't even think they were shooting three-pointers that much back then.
John Starks was the first guy. You wouldn't think it was him, but he was the first guy to make over 200 threes in the season.
Okay. Yeah, nobody would have thought that besides John Starks.
Yeah, that's yeah, definitely. So he's definitely underrated when it comes to that aspect of his game. For the next question, we're going to go New York Knicks again. Who is the all-time leader in assists for the New York Knicks? Is it Walt Frazier, Mark Jackson, Charlie Ward, or Carl Braun? We'll get to you one more time. Who is the all-time leader in assists for the New York Knicks? Is it Walt Frazier, Mark Jackson, Charlie Ward, or Carl Braun?
Okay, Mark Jackson is top 5 of all time in assists. But that would be too obvious. Well, Clark Frazier. I'm going to say Mark Jackson.
You should have went with your first mind. It was Walt Frazier.
Wow.
Yes, Walt Frazier.
I thought that was one of those easy questions.
Yes, Walt Frazier from 1967 to 77 had 4,791 assists for the New York Knicks.
Wow.
All right.
I didn't know who that last guy was. I've never heard of him, so I knew it wasn't him. Don't worry. It couldn't have been.
Yeah, Carl Braun is from way back in the day. The Knicks got a lot of old records. Like, it was hard to find, like, present-day stuff. Like, a lot of their records is from the old school. So I had to dig deep right there.
Oh, I should have phoned a friend and called my grandfather.
For question number 3, we're going to go Oakland Raiders.
Okay.
Who holds the record for passing yards in a single season for the Oakland Raiders? Is it Derek Carr, Rich Gannon, Carson Palmer, or Ken Stabler? Let me give it to you one more time. Who holds the record for passing yards in a season for the Oakland Raiders? Derek Carr, Rich Gannon, Carson Palmer, or Ken Stabler?
In a season, or you said season or a game? I'm sorry, it broke up.
In a season.
In a season. Say Rich Gannon.
That is correct. Yes. In 2002, Rich Gannon threw for 4,689 yards, leading the Oakland Raiders to the Super Bowl. Unfortunately, they did lose, but he got them there. And he won MVP that year on 67% completion rate with 26 touchdowns and 10 interceptions.
Brown and Rice those days.
Yes, definitely. That was them two old dudes was out there killing people though. They was out there getting it.
That's the slowest receiving core of all time.
But kept getting open.
Yeah.
For question number 4, we're gonna go back to the Oakland Raiders. Who holds the record for receptions in a season for the Oakland Raiders? Is it Todd Christensen, Charlie Garner, Jerry Rice, or Tim Brown? I'll give it to you one more time. Who holds the record for receptions in a season for the Oakland Raiders? Is it Todd Christensen, Charlie Garner, Jerry Rice, or Tim Brown?
I want to go with Christensen with the tight end. I'm going to say Christensen.
Very good guess. He is second. But first is Tim Brown.
Wow.
Yes, Tim Brown had 104 catches in 1997. He also had 1,408 yards that year. You forget how cold Tim Brown was. Like, Tim Brown was out here killing it.
With no gloves on.
That's true.
Just tape on his fingers.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah,
no gloves
people
on.
forget about him because he wasn't flashy. But I knew that it was him or Christian. But like some of these questions, man, it make you think because you're like, okay, it's too obvious to be Tim Brown. Jerry Rice wasn't there that long. So, but yeah, that was wild.
So I do appreciate you being I do appreciate you being a good sport doing sports trivia. Let me just recap the questions for the people. First question was, who is the all-time leader in three-point field goals made for the New York Knicks? Answer is John Starks, who made 932 three-pointers during his time with the Knicks. Question number 2, who is the all-time leader in assists for the New York Knicks? It is Walt Clyde Frazier, who has 4,791 assists during his time with the Knicks. Question number 3, who holds the record for passing yards in a single season for the Oakland Raiders? Rich Gannon, who threw for 4,689 yards in 2002. Question number 4, who holds the record for receptions in a single season for the Oakland Raiders? Tim Brown with 104 catches in 1997. So again, appreciate you being a good sport. And now it's time for us to do Forgotten Players. Forgotten Players is where you pay homage to players who may have been good but not great, great but not recognized, or players who you may have just forgotten about who we want to remind you of. Who is your forgotten player today?
I'm going to take it back to 1996 NBA draft. Everybody remembers the names Allen Iverson, Stephon Marbury, Steve Nash. This guy was the 3rd pick in the draft out of Cal, Sharif Abdul-Rahim. He is my forgotten player.
That's a very good pick. So why'd you pick Sharif Abdul-Rahim?
Number one, like he don't get the recognition he deserves. The man averaged for his career, and he played from 96 to about 2008. Averaged 18 points per game, 7.5 rebounds, about a block, 1 steal. But he also played in the era with some really good power forwards. You had KG, Rasheed Wallace, Sean Webb, Tim Duncan. They had some really good power forwards back then. And considering the draft class that he came in with, you just had to give this to Shareef Abdur-Rahim. He balled out in Vancouver when Vancouver was just trash. He went to Atlanta and balled out, played in Sacramento and played well. I just feel like he should get some respect and some homage and some of that limelight.
Now, that's a very good pick. Shareef Abdur-Rahim, you mentioned, played for Vancouver. That's where his best years were. And that's the reason a lot of people don't remember him. There's a reason Vancouver moved to Memphis. There's a reason why Steve Francis refused to go there. Like, Steve Francis was like, I'm not going. If y'all pick me, I'm just not going to go. And Vancouver is like a black eye on the NBA when you think about it. The fact that he had a franchise there and it just wasn't working out. And all we remember is Big Country Reeves from Vancouver.
Yep.
So that's one of the reasons that Shareef Abdur-Rahim doesn't get his recognition.
Yep, and Michael Dickerson as well.
Yeah, he's a former forgotten player on this podcast. I picked him probably like 2 months ago. Somebody who was very good coming out of college. Yeah, he was very good coming out of college. He just he had a lot of injuries, a lot of crazy like thigh injuries in the NBA where he got held back. But somebody who was very talented coming out of Arizona. So shout out to Michael Dickerson, somebody who's a forgotten player alumni. So my forgotten player today, I'm also going basketball. This guy was undrafted out of Boise State. He had to play in the minor leagues for a little bit before he got to the NBA. Didn't make the NBA until he was 27. But he made a very big mark in the NBA. He was known for his tough defense, clutch shooting, but he was more known for a two-punch combo and no biscuit. I'm talking about your man, Chris Childs. Chris Childs he wasn't the best player. He didn't have Shareef Abdur-Rahim's stats. Didn't have the stats of even Michael Dickerson. He only averaged like maybe 7 points per game for his career. But like I said, he made clutch three-point shots, especially during those Knicks years. Somebody who would come in and when he played defense on you, you know you were getting somebody that was going to be on you the whole game. And him and Charlie Ward were a great combination of point guards for the Knicks at that time. And like I said, he doesn't have the accolades of other players, but he will be remembered forever for giving Kobe that two-piece. And
he actually balled out in Toronto, too.
He did.
In Toronto as a backup.
He did have some good years in Toronto. His best year actually came early in his career when he was playing with the New Jersey Nets. I believe he averaged 12 points a game. So he had some other years outside those Knicks years, but of course we remember him for playing with those New York Knicks. And somebody who you always respect, somebody who has to grind their way into the league. Coming out of Boise State, who's, at that time wasn't known for anything, but now they're more known for football. Coming out of that school, grinding his way through the minor leagues to make the NBA. And, as an undersized point guard, somebody who had to stick the likes of Kobe Bryant. The reason he got in the fight because he was sticking Kobe, and Kobe didn't like the way he was sticking him. So, gotta give a big shout out to both Shareef Abdur-Rahim and Chris Childs, the forgotten players today. I hope you had a great time, man. I appreciate you coming on the show.
Oh, man, I had a great time. Definitely appreciate you having me on.
Now, tell people where they can follow you and where they can find the show.
You can find the show on iTunes. You can find the show on SoundCloud. You can also find it on our website at www.callitwhatcha.want. It is not what you want, it's what you want. That's WHATCHA. You can hit me up on Instagram at Call It What You Want, or you can find me on Twitter at J.Oden. That's ODEN. The number is 2218. That's J.Oden 2218. You can find my team on there as well. Isn't that funny? And my boy JC.
Definitely. Great follow on Twitter. Like I said, he found me on Twitter, and I immediately was like, okay, this guy is somebody who I'm going to connect with, get on the podcast one day, because just reading the tweets and reading his bio, I was like, okay, I can see this guy is funny. Somebody who definitely knows basketball. Made jokes about being like a Anthony Mason. Like, when you bring out names like that, you know this guy knows basketball. So go ahead, follow him. Not just basketball, all sports.
Yeah, Anthony Mason, Clarence Witherspoon. And I can't forget the great power forward, LeVar Ball.
Hey, LeVar Ball is going to go down in history. just not for basketball, but it's all right. So thank you guys for listening to The Real Deal with Damian Adams. Remember to follow me at The Real Deal WDA. That's The Real Deal, W as in whiskey, D as in Delta, A as in Alpha, on all platforms, Instagram, Twitter, everywhere. Make sure you like The Real Deal with Damian Adams Facebook page, and tell your friends to subscribe to the podcast. Share with everybody, all right? And until next time, go real or go home.